Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it may be, wherever you are. Welcome to the Darth Grumpy Dad Twitch stream. All right, Darth Grumpy Dad Games. Whatever you hear. But we are once again working on our whiz here, trying to get through the most of our seasonal journey. I'm at a point where I need to start checking stuff off of these. Start working through that. I've got a decent bit of kit together. I've got a decent bit of the altar done. So now it's time to finish getting the kit together for my follower and work my way through the seasonal journey. Because really, I just want the pet. Like, I'm doing this for the pet. Because I don't have that pet. I happen to like the little book pet. Looks really cool. The book pet and that treasure goblin look really good with the POJ set, right? I just like the way the POJ set looks, and that goblin and that book look cool with it. Even though, because of the altar, right, and your pets pick up all the stuff, a flying pet is better. Like, they just get hung up on less stuff. Like the dragons or the birds or whatever that fly are better, as far as that goes. But anyways, let's get into this. First thing first, for if you're newer to the game, right? If you're newer to the game, you're going to want to go in your options, go to gameplay, make sure your elective mode is turned on so you put your skills on whatever button you want, in whatever order you want, to fit your play style. And then also you're going to want to make sure, like, you can turn on and off any of these numbers, that's up to you. I just have it turned off a lot because there isn't much point in it for what I do. I don't need to know how hard I'm hitting. I don't need to know, I just don't. I don't. Right? But you do need to have show advanced tooltips on. I highly super suggest that. Because is what it does when you go into your menu. As soon as we get loaded in here, when you go into your menu and your skills, and you look at your skills, all the little extra green numbers that you see there, most of those are not there if you don't have that turned on. Like, say, especially on your follower. If you want to know how long a skill the cooldowns are and where you're at on that, right? You need to have that turned on because they cap out. A lot of these cap out either at 4 or 10%, right? So, so that's how you know. And it's based on the intelligence of your follower. Like the Enchantress obviously is an intelligence-based character. So you get the intelligence, I think it's around 39 or 40,000. And that's going to cap out her skills. And then anything after that, she's not really, you can cap out all the gear, make a problem, whatever, but they're still only going to do so much damage, right? And they're not really going to be killing anything in higher or greater rifts. You just want these skills, right? And usually I run with the Enchantress because this skill, right here, you can either increase your elemental damage, which all builds have elemental damage, almost every one, and you want your main one to get amplified, right? And that's 10%. Or prophetic harmony, which is cooldown, it's 10% cooldown, depending on what you need in your build, right? And almost all the builds now, all your followers come with one of these cheat deaths, right? Like this one, right? Fate's Lapse, cooldown 13 or 120 seconds. I think you can get, I can't remember what you can get that down to, 60 seconds, I think, when it's maxed out or something. It's a cheat death. It's a cheat death skill, right? Or you can run this one, like an aura, right? Attacks up to your attack speed if you need attack speed in the build. And it doesn't really take a lot, like, I've heard some people struggle to get the 30, 40,000, whatever it is, intelligence or dexterity or strength. And it's not that hard. It really, I mean, if you have to run, like, Wizard is intelligence based, so all the gear you pick up should come with intelligence on it for the most part. And if not, you can roll intelligence onto it, right? At the Mystique. It's not that hard. So you don't need a whole lot of all the crit and all that stuff on your follower. You want their main stat, right? Their main stat, and you want their skills. Now, yes, you can go into all that other stuff if you're really big on pushing and da-da-da. But for the most part, if you're a casual gamer, shit doesn't matter, right? You want gear that emanates the skill to you on the gear. This doesn't, but like these two, see, it says emanate. You want gear that emanates or does something positive for your enchantress, for your follower, like Ring of Grandeur. So you can get 4 pieces of gear like this, or the cane set, so you get an extra drop, an extra key drop, or, you know, like these are giving you double death breath, right? That's what you want. You want your follower there to help you farm and give you some cool extra passives, basically. After a certain point, they don't do any damage. Like they still do in T16. They can just go kill stuff for you in T16. But once you're pushing, not that worth it. Right? So it'll be all you later. All you. Let's see, what do I need? I still need a Squirt's necklace. I need a Rancer's Folly. I need, even though that's kind of pretty, like I can roll. What is it that I need to roll on here? I can never really remember what I need to roll on the chest piece. It's so kind of inconsequential. But this came with low intelligence, really. It came with really low intelligence. Anyways. So, what do I need? I'm off on a tangent. Spent a whole bunch of time just bullshitting. Oh, our background noise for the day, like a debate with Redeemed Zoomer versus Made by Jim Bob. And the prompt for the debate is, does evolution fit with Christianity? These are always funny. They're always funny. Both sides. Just fucking funny. Let's see, I need a Ring of Grandeur, Death Breath, Flawless Royal Ruby. I can craft that at any time. You get the Death Breath pretty quickly. Just need a Ring of Grandeur. Also need to farm. Let's see. Bounty mats. Let's see what my gems are at. 19, 25, 16. All right, so we are going to need to keep leveling that to 25, that one to 25, and then hopefully we can get a Boon of the Hoarder, get the puzzle ring, get a puzzle ring to drop so we can open the vault and get a Boon of the Hoarder so we can boost our gold drop. Nothing to gamble, no gamblies. How many keys do we got? We've got 10 keys. Might need to run some Neffies. Let's run these out first, though. And I was running 35s just because I can get them done quick. Right? Not really worried about getting the drops or anything. I do kind of wish that you could either trade, if not trade, at least sell some of your bounty mats, because like I have way more Act 1 bounty mats than anything else, like even on my non-seasonal characters, always, like, because you run so freaking many of them to get your Ring of Grandeurs, right? You need 3 of them. You need 3 of them. You need one for you, one for your follower, Like, not necessarily, but I like one on my follower. And one for the artifact thing, for the altar. So, and so that's a lot of Act 1 bounties, right? And, like, I'm impatient, so I will just run Act 1 bounties back to back to back, trying to get it. Sometimes you get those 3 rings, they'll drop right away. Sometimes, nope, not forever and a day. Excuse me. Now, before they had the Portals of Enmity, where you could farm bounty mats out of, I would then just go run Act 2, 3, 4, and 5 to even out all the bounty mats, right? And try and keep them even, because I can be anal retentive, right? I can be all, like, you go in there and you look and you have 500 Act 1 bounty mats and 100 of everything else. It's just like, it's annoying. It's annoying, right? You want it to all look like you're cool and you know what you're doing, and they're all even. Why? I don't know. Just you do. That's just the rule. Yes, it's just the rule. Just deal with it. But anyways, running this, we'll get to our background noise here in a second. Alrighty. Spam that A button. There we go. All right, let's start this. All right, and this is a formal debate. It's hosted by Modern Day Debate, which, all right, channel. You can hear a lot of different debates there. They've got DebateCon coming up this weekend, and so if you like hearing debates on various topics, they are going to have a ton over the weekend, like a ton, like 20 debates or something stupid. It's a lot, and there's going to be a lot of mid, low, like just a lot of debaters there across the spectrum, from very poor to very good, right? From political to theology to, you name it, whatever. Flat Earth, like there's going to be flat Earth debate. I don't even know why people debate. I don't get it. I don't get it. I kind of do. Like if it's a meme debate, like a meme debate is when people pick any topic, whatever the topic, and just fucking debate it to polish their skills. It's called a meme debate. It's to work your muscle memory on various topics. And when guys do that, they go after each other like it's rules to the wind, right? It's like a full contact sport at that point. They're just mean and they say things that can't really be upheld, but they go back and forth to polish their skills and their arguments and expose each other to different arguments. They work together. Like, these guys go at each other in the debates, but a lot of them are, in fact, friendly with each other to some extent, right? Depending how, like, okay, the guys on the far left and the guys on the far right, they don't like each other, right? They tolerate each other. They'll do debates, but they're not going to be hanging out. They're not going to be doing meme debates with each other because they don't like each other enough, right? That's kind of human nature. But anyways, let's get on this. Redeemed Zoomer versus Made by Jim Bob. Does evolution fit with Christianity?
Lawrence Krauss against Inspiring Philosophy, Mike Jones, and Alex O'Connor against David Wood. So click below.
So there's going to be some commercial and stuff.
Ticket types are already selling out. You don't want to miss
yeah,
out
and this is just on my phone again because I am the ultimate trailer park trash streamer.
You don't want to miss it.
So let's go. Let's close this.
As well as many other debates. Click now to get your tickets.
Kind of loud. There we go. All right.
New Jersey is where our next debate conference, DebateCon 5, is happening starting on February 15th with our religion debates, including Dr. Lawrence Krauss against Inspiring Philosophy, Mike Jones, and Alex O'Connor against David Wood. So click below to get your tickets, as some ticket types are already
David Wood is
selling
pretty good.
out. You don't want to miss miss out on this.
He's got one of those
Saturday, February 15th,
voice
and
made for
Sunday,
radio
February
voices.
16th.
He's got one of those
Debate
nice
Con
voices with
5
a
in
smooth
Newark, New
timbre,
Jersey.
easy to
You don't
listen
want to miss
to,
it,
right?
as these debates will be live
He
in
does
person,
debates, and I
as
think
well as
he's
some other
actually, I think
debates.
he's a college
Right now,
professor
to get
as well.
your
So
tickets for this
debates on
in-person event,
philosophy and
Jersey is where our next debate conference,
theology
Debate
are
Con
just
5 is
kind of
happening
part of the
starting on
gig. I believe the guy
February
is a
15th
Christian,
with our religion
right?
debates,
I don't know
Dr.
if
Lawrence
he's
Krauss against
a
inspiring philosopher
Protestant
Mike
or
Jones, and
Orthodox.
Alex O'Connor against David Wood. So click below to get your tickets, as
Why
some
is
ticket
this
types
running
are
the same
already
commercial?
selling out. You don't want to miss out.
Okay, there they go. There it goes.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Modern Day Debate. I'm your host, Ryan, and tonight we're going to be debating, does evolution fit?
Now, okay, now I do need to say this though about the moderators at Modern Day Debate. They do not do debate. They're just moderators, which is all right, I guess. It kind of makes them more neutral, but they don't understand the flow of a debate and how to properly, keep discussion within a certain realm, what's actually allowed in it, what isn't. So it's cool they're moderating it. It's like debate needs to be done way more. There needs to be way more debate in everyday life for everybody, and to understand how logic and reason work and work within the framework of your mind. Right? That's a big deal shit. And they don't teach it in school, and people have been taught it's not important. Just learn how to swing your hammer and shut the fuck up. Right? No, it's a big deal. Learn how to think properly is a big deal. So and these guys are, it's good they're getting this out there, but they're not very good moderators. I'll just get that out there to start with.
With Christianity. To get us started out, we have redeemed Zoomer. So whenever you're ready, I will start the timer here.
All right, thanks. So when we're talking about scientific theories, we can't just accept whatever is popular. We have to use God-given wisdom to discern which scientific theories fit a Christian worldview and which don't. We need to look at science through a Christ-centered lens, not a supposedly neutral blank slate. I'm happy to say my opponent agrees with me here, but the thing is, evolution is the theory of creation that best fits a Christian worldview. Every time God creates a new kind of thing in Scripture, he does it by a gradual evolutionary process. Every time God creates something in Scripture, he always starts small and branches out. The kingdom of God is like a mustard seed that grows into a tree with many branches. God could have snapped his fingers and made all Israel appear at once, but instead God made all Israel from a single man, Abraham, from whom came many tribes. God could have snapped his fingers and made all humans at once, but instead God made all humans from a single man, Adam, from whom came many races. So why is it so hard to believe that God would make all life from a single cell, from which came all the different species? It simply fits the biblical worldview and the biblical pattern. All Israel from one Israelite, all men from one man, and all life from one life form. The fundamental question behind this debate is, can one accept the mainstream scientific theories of evolution in the age of the earth without compromising the authority of Scripture? Yes, the father of biblical...
Okay, so, yes, I'm interrupting it already. So I think Jim Bob is going to come from the angle that the theory of evolution isn't a actual scientific theory because it doesn't meet the qualifiers to be a theory, right? Is it an idea? Is it an idea that can be discussed and explored? Yeah, but it's not an actual theory because it doesn't meet the qualifiers, right? For the scientific method, right? You have observation and experimentation, right? And then that leads down the list to a hypothesis, then a theory if it makes it through, right? Because you have your idea, your observation, your idea, the crescent. Then you have experimentations. Then you have your hypothesis that you create from the experiment, and then you go back and you do that a bunch of times to see if you're right. You inject and remove certain parts of the experiment to see the reaction of the thing you're experimenting on. And then with that, you create a theory. A theory is the very last step. Now, when they say the theory of evolution, there's been no experimentation. There's for the way the idea of evolution is that it's millions of years long and it just happened. There's nothing you can inject or remove from an experiment to create concrete proof of evolution. So that's the argument he's going to take here, right? And how they're going to argue whether or not it fits into Christianity, we'll see.
Inerrancy, B.B. Warfield famously accepted evolution. Moreover, St. Augustine and many other church fathers did not believe in a literal six-day creation. It's not like he believed in evolution either, but he did employ a metaphorical interpretation of many parts of Genesis. Genesis 1 says that creation took 6 days. However, we know from both scripture and science that time is relative. Moses, who wrote Genesis, also writes in Psalm 90 that 1,000 years in your sight are like a day that has just gone by. Furthermore, Peter quotes this psalm when he assures his readers that the Lord is not taking a long time to come, just long from their perspective. With the Lord, 1 day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years are like 1 day. The Lord is not slow about his promise. Since the sun and moon were not in the sky until the 4th day, and since days are determined by the sun, it makes sense to suggest that these days were from God's perspective, not from a human perspective. Also, Jesus said, "Look, I am coming soon," Revelation 22:7. So far it's been 2,000 years. If the world really is 6,000 years old, then that would not qualify as soon. However, if the universe is billions of years old and humans have been around for over 100,000 years, then it makes sense that Jesus came at the
Turn the
very
game
end
up
of
in my
history and
headset
is
a little
indeed coming
too,
very soon. If you look at the big picture, that's why Scripture says we are in the last days and have been ever since the first advent of Christ. If we don't limit ourselves to 6 24-hour Earth days, then science actually verifies Genesis 1 rather than contradicting it. Scientists have a timeline of when each life form developed, and it beautifully matches Genesis 1. Genesis 1, 1-2 says that when God began creating the world, the earth was formless, void, and dark.
Let's go see
We know
if
from
we got-
science that when the earth was first created, it was void of all life, it was dark and chaotic.
Yeah.
When God says, "Let there be light," that probably refers to when the atmosphere cleared enough so that light could be seen, but not enough that the sun, moon, and stars could be seen, like a gray fog. You might say, wait, the sun, moon, and stars were created on day 4. I'm getting to that. On day 2, God uses the sky to separate the water above from the water below. Science has confirmed that in the early days of the Earth, all the water existed as steam in the atmosphere, and when temperatures cooled, liquid water collected on the ground and the water vapor stayed in the atmosphere as clouds. On day 3, God gathered the waters, letting the dry land appear. Again, science has confirmed that the entire world used to be covered by water until geothermal activity made the first dry land appear. Then God makes plants,
I mean,
which
those
makes
are
it
just
impossible if there's no
assertions.
sun.
There's no
Day 4 seems to present a challenge,
experimentation,
since the sun and moon existed from
like
before
where
plants
they
did.
applied
But it doesn't
and
say the sun, moon, and were
retracted
created on day 4.
a
It says,
part
"Let
of
there
the
be
experiment to
lights in the dome of
prove
sky
the
to separate day
assertion.
from night."
Right? They're just
The atmosphere used to be
assuming,
too
they're
thick
just
to see the
asserting
sun,
it.
moon, and stars, but once the first plant life developed, they were able to clear the sky through photosynthesis, which is why it says the sun, moon, and stars were put in the sky after plants were made. The creatures created after that are all in the same order in Genesis 1 as they are according to the biological timeline. Fish, then birds, then mammals, and finally humans. There is an important detail regarding the creation of humans. First it says, "God let us make man," but then it says God made the man. First it's man, Adam, then it's the man, Ha-Adam. This suggests that there is a general creation of human creatures, and then a specific creation of Adam, the first creature who was set apart to receive the breath of life, which is traditionally interpreted as a human soul. Another problem many Christians have with evolution is that the Bible says God made Adam specifically from the dust, and supposedly that means he didn't have parents. However, several passages, including 1 Corinthians 15:47-48, say we are all made from the dust, yet we still had parents. Just because God created Adam doesn't mean he appeared fully formed and did not develop naturally. We would say God created you and me, but we had parents. We developed by a natural process. Those don't contradict. God created you and me providentially, just the same way God created Adam. Adam and Eve were set apart to be the first humans with a human soul, and all of their descendants therefore had a human soul as well. Another reason why this interpretation works better than the young earth creationist interpretation is it requires more mental gymnastics to say that Cain's children were with Adam and Eve's daughters, therefore he committed incest, than to say that Cain had children with other humans who were around at that time, since Adam and Eve's other sons and daughters are not mentioned until after it speaks of the birth of Seth. It mentioned that Cain had children with his wife without speaking of the creation of any other people. This can be true while still maintaining that Adam and Eve are the parents of all who have human souls. In Genesis 4:4.
Yes, you can make this argument. Unfortunately, all you have to do is take a cursory look at the human race and see how there's, like this. You got various races, and those races exist like that because they were sequestered from each other by land masses, water, da. So they all, Asians look a certain way, Africans look a certain way, Northern Europeans look a certain way, Native Americans, Pacific Islanders all look a certain way, right? That's because there was seclusion and inbreeding. So no, so it's still biblical, could be biblical that there, all these families inbred and created the populations around the world. So there's still an argument for that. Anyways, we'll go. Let's keep going.
Cain is worried that people will kill him. If Adam, Eve, and Cain are the only humans.
Oh, and I'm not much of a Christian. I just like the arguments. I like argumentation. Right? That's just kind of.
At that point, who is he worried about? The biggest theological problem Christians have with Darwinian evolution is that it requires death before the fall. I would respond by saying the Bible never claims there was no sin, evil, or death before the fall. In fact, it states the opposite. Genesis 1:3 says God saw the light was good and separated it from the darkness, which implies that there was evil and darkness from the beginning. We know that there was evil before the fall.
No. Okay, darkness is the absence of light. Evil is the absence of God. Right. So this is something that's been argued among theologians. Right. So darkness is the absence of light. So get that? It's the opposite. So without light, there is no darkness. There's right. There's a. How do I get this? Without light, there's no heat. Without heat, there's no cold because there's no opposite. You have nothingness, right? So you have to have a something. There's nothing or there's something, right? Is what it comes down to. So when God said, there was nothing, and God said, or the universe, however you want to, he said, let there be light. And before that, there was no darkness, there was no light, there was only nothing. And nothing is, nothing. So, okay, moving on.
Because Satan was already there tempting them. The fall of Satan must have been before the fall of Adam and Eve. Furthermore, God gives Adam and Eve the tree of life that grants them immortality. There's no need for the tree of life if death did not exist in their world yet. The most common passage used to claim that there was no evil or death before the fall of Adam is Romans 5:12, where Paul says sin entered the world through one man and death through sin. It is absolutely correct to say that death and sin were permitted to enter the world because of Adam, but it does not say that the point of Adam's fall was when sin chronologically entered the world. We know from Job that God allows Satan to sow evil into the world in order to test man. Theologians have always noted the difference between human evil and cosmic evil. Cosmic evil has existed since the beginning of the physical universe, but the fall was the beginning of human evil since it was when man sided with Satan and the cosmic forces of evil rather than God. Romans 5:12 says sin entered the world through one man, but that sin can apply to times before Adam, just as grace entered the world through Christ, but that grace applies to times before Christ. Some ask if evolution is true, why didn't God include it in his word? Well, we need to look at what the Bible claims its purpose is. 2 Timothy 3:16 says all scripture is God-breathed and is useful for teaching, rebuking, correcting, and training in righteousness. The creation of the universe from a scientific perspective was incredibly complex and is not something that the biblical authors, as well as the vast majority of peoples throughout history whom the Bible is intended to reach, would have understood. Rather than giving a detailed explanation of what happens, God gives us a simplified narrative that doesn't include all the scientific facts of what happens, but tells us everything we need to know theologically. Genesis 1 is not about how the world is created, but who created it and why. Everyone else at that time thought the sun, stars, and creatures were gods. Genesis is saying those are not gods. God created all those things. God is sovereign, all those things. Another objection to the idea of Adam having lived hundreds of thousands of years ago is if you add up the ages of the patriarchs, they add up to 6,000 years. There's a video by Inspiring Philosophy that does a good job explaining how the ages of the patriarchs were most likely symbolic numbers, not literal, and that they also likely skipped many generations. And we know from other parts of Scripture that generations are often modified to fit certain ideal numbers. What probably happened is this. About 100,000 years ago, the Earth was filled with early Homo sapiens, creatures that were nearly human in structure and genetically similar enough to mate with humans, but did not have a human mind or soul. Archaeology reveals that the earliest Homo sapiens were genetically human, but did not have large enough brains to have a complex human mind like we do today. At some point, God made a garden in the Middle East and set apart one of these humans to live in.
None of this is proven. It's just an assertion or an assumption. Right? They got like 4 bones of a skull and went, look. Oh, look, we found a tiny human skull. That means that all the humans at that time had tiny skulls. No, it just means you found a really tiny human skull.
Scientifically, we know that as humans got larger brains, childbirth became more painful for women. We should also accept evolution because it's a beautiful picture of the gospel. The whole theme of Scripture is God bringing good out of evil, life out of death, light out of darkness. Genesis 50:20, one of my favorite verses in Scripture, says, "You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good." Satan intended death in the world for evil, but God marvelously brought creative life out of it. Satan intended the fall for evil, but God brought redemption out of it. Satan intended the crucifixion, the worst event in history for evil, but out of it, God brought the best event in history, the resurrection. Thank you.
All right, you got it. Well, thank you so much, Redeem Zoomer, for your introductory statement. We appreciate you. Let me just adjust this here. We appreciate you coming out to Modern Day Debate to have the discussion, and we are going to kick it over to Jim Bob in just one
the moderators
second.
at
So if
Modern
this is your
Day
first time
Debate,
here
they all
at Modern Day
have
Debate,
shit-tastic
hit the
mics.
subscribe button.
Like,
And while you're
you
at
guys
it,
might
smash the
think the
like
mic
button.
on my
Boost us up the
headset is
algorithm. We are
shit-tastic.
live right now.
Listen to that.
So the
Listen
more
to that.
you
This
hit
guy's
that
got
like
like a
button, the more we get
1940s
this out.
mic, like literally.
Of course, you
Just
guys
go
know
look up
all
Modern
about
Day
it. We have our
Debate
debate
and
con
this
5
particular
coming
moderator.
up. There's
He's
gonna
got
be a
like,
lot
if
of epic
you ever see
speakers
those
there,
old
along with
like
as you can see, our
50s
crowdfund
videos
has,
where it's the big
has
steel
been burst
looking
out. It's
mic
over
with the
100%.
grill
I
on
think
it,
it's actually
right?
at 117%. So big
Weighs
thank
like
you to
4
all who help
pounds.
support
Yeah,
the channel.
that's what he's got.
But yeah, before I
But
start
the guys,
directing all
the
all
types of
directions
jazz
in which,
guys
we've been
still
busy here at
use
the
to get
channel,
that
let's get
sound.
over to Made by Jim Bob's introduction. So thanks for coming back to the channel. Our tech is working a lot better this time, so thanks for coming, Jim.
Yeah, no problem. Can I start?
Yep, ready when you are.
All right, cool. The topic of the debate is whether evolution is compatible with Christianity. The topic of the debate isn't whether or not you can interpret Genesis poetically and match it to another poetic account of evolution. The question at hand is, what is evolution and what is Christianity? In order to know if they're compatible, you need to know what each of them are. So in order to know what evolution is, we would just look to a basic definition. Evolution is a process by which different kinds of living organisms are thought to have developed and diversified from early forms during the history of the Earth. So that is to say, the human beings
Should
we
be
see
able to get one
today
more
are the
run.
result of a process
Girlie?
which
Oh, there she
necessitates
is.
an ancestor that isn't the human we see today. Under the Christian worldview, humans and humans alone hold the image-bearer status of God. Now, given that my opponent is defending both evolution and Christianity, he will be forced to present a moment in the evolutionary process in which beasts take on the image-bearer status of God. What this means is that there's a necessary threshold within the naturalistic process of change that the non-human must pass in order to obtain this new metaphysical status of image-bearer status. The problem is, if evolution is a continuous process of change, then the current human status could actually devolve based on my opponent's view, to the status
Cheap
behind
views
that
on
threshold, using
streambo.com
our
remove
image-bearer
the
status.
space.
So the
Well,
necessity
thank you,
is
first
really
time
a naturalistic
chatter.
necessity under this view.
He's trying to
The
sell
nature
me
of humanity is now in question.
sell me
As a
views.
consequence,
I
so is
thank
the
you for
fall.
so much
Now,
for
he did-
caring
I think he
so
did
much.
mention Romans 5,
Just
verse
like,
12,
dude, I don't care,
as one
man.
man sin entered the
I'm
world,
old and
death
disabled, and
by
I can't
sin,
really
and
make
so
money.
death
Even
passed
if I
through
had
all
enough
men,
followers to
for
make
that
money
all
at
have
this,
sinned. In this
like,
phrase, it's saying
I don't know if
that
I'd buy views. I just
through a man,
understand if
one
you want to
man,
get popular
sin
really
entered
quick,
into
that's the way to
reality.
do it. You just buy
If it's the
views.
case,
You buy views on
that
Twitch.
sin
You buy,
already exists
you know,
and
right? But
death
then you
already
need some
exists,
capital
my opponent actually has
to
to
start
take
with
the
to buy the
affirmative
views
that
on
death
Twitch,
is
on
good.
YouTube, on,
Sin is good because
you
it was
know,
already there.
X,
It was
whatever.
already
You
there
can
from
buy
creation.
views.
Because God created
You
it,
can
it
buy
was all good.
bots.
Now, if my opponent
Right.
holds to death and sin existing before the fall, he not only
I don't
has
know.
to do
I'm not just like,
exegesis
I'm
gymnastics,
too lazy
which
for
he's already
that.
has done in his
Just too
opening,
lazy.
but
Just
he now has to. He has a meaningless fall
too much
of man.
work.
What is this fall of man? If there is no such thing as fall, fall already exists. Sin already exists. If sin and death existed in a pre-fall realm, what does it mean for humanity to fall under a Christian view? Now, there is no meaning to humanity's fall now. Under this view, there is no meaning to humanity's redemption or healing. Without the fall, there's no healing anyway. So what is it we're actually referring to? Now, the view gets even worse. If death existed before the fall, then death was a creation, as I said. And if death was a creation before the fall, then death is good. If death is good, then Christ defeating death simply translates quite literally to Christ defeating good. What is Christianity if the peak theosis for man is defeating something that is actually good?
Okay.
Now, that's one defeater. Here's another defeater. The argument my opponent's position is
pretty good
trying
argument.
to present here. Premise one.
Here we go.
It
It's his
is
syllogy.
absolutely a necessity, a necessary antecedent. Okay, premise one. It is an absolutely necessary antecedent for salvation for Christ to incarnate in human nature. Okay? He must incarnate in human nature. Premise 2. For premise 1 to be true, there must be a universal human nature. There has to be a human nature for Christ to incarnate.
I think I forgot to gamble.
Premise 3. Under the evolutionary view,
Oh,
there
no, I
is
had
no
one more
static
run. Yeah,
universal
yeah.
nature. Conclusion. There is no universal nature for Christ to take on. Ergo, there is no human nature to heal. Christianity is not compatible with evolution for this view, for this reason. To summarize the argument I've just presented, evolution reduces organisms to particular transient forms. Under that view, Christ could only take on a particular nature, his own and very own human nature, not like any other human nature, because human nature, under the evolutionary view, is changing.
Okay,
It's not a universal nature.
Trap.
Christ could only
Okay, good.
overcome his own particular
Powerful.
naturalistic status. So it's logically possible, under my opponent's view, that Christ could have incarnated as a particular
nice.
individual creature. Because there is no universal nature, he assumed anyway. It's always in flux, it's always developing, it's devolving, it's doing all this stuff. There's no set thing.
Nice,
Just
nice,
as many evolution
nice.
proponents would admit,
Be able to get some
when they're honest,
125s out of
is
that if I
there is
need
no
them.
such thing really as
But you
species.
might need 'em
That
for
is an
the-
arbitrarily defined segment,
store all these.
time-dependent segment. There is no real species under this view. The same way that there would be no nature, true human nature under this view. Now, the only thing my opponent can really do, which he's
All
already
right, I
demonstrated
think-
some of, is invert
I think
some
I have
some of
all
the
of it.
Christianity
Like,
to
I just need
fit
a
his
boot
own
of the horse.
creation, event,
I'm not positive.
or
I
invert
think
evolution to
if you
match
haven't gotten a
Christianity
boot of
to
the hoarder,
evolution.
or she might
I
drop
assume
you
he will
on.
continue to do both.
But I'm not
But
like
the key
I'm not
point here
100%
is
on
the
that.
central to the gospel is Christ's assumption of the universal human
put that
nature
in the
in the
cube.
incarnation, which under the evolutionary view there is no static universal
Another conventional element. Oh,
human nature to
I'm
take
out of
on.
maps.
It's purely nominal.
Okay,
It's a
let's save
transient,
that convo.
unfixed
Take a look. Let's see.
process that's
How does it
always
compare to my other
changing. In
combo?
fact, it could be the case that many millions
Oh, I ran out of
of
gems. That's right. I
years
was
could
trying to
still
roll
pass
the other.
from now, and we could actually evolve away from having
Okay, we'll save that.
the
Like,
mind capacity we have.
if I
and
get
the
bored, I
ability
may
to do
re-roll
logic and
that,
reasoning and philosophy
try and
from
get
this
a-
view. So do we lose the
Alright,
breath of
so
life?
it's
Do we
another
lose the image bearer
Typhon.
status? If it's the case that Christ came from a Christian view and could only take on a nominal nature, only his own, not like any other human, because human nature doesn't exist. There's just a transient form. There's just a continued changing process, right? Completely evolving and changing, right? If this is the case, there's nothing to heal, because the healing under a Christian view would be referring to the humanity healing. So there's another problem under this view. How many minutes, Ryan?
3 minutes.
Three. Okay.
Ooh, that's got fire
The other
skill.
problem here
Strength
is
instead of intelligence
that
and no crit.
from an
Kinda
evolutionary
crappy,
view, everything
But I'll save it.
becomes
I can always
mechanistic
re-roll
anyway.
it, try and get something
So
better out of it if I
he
need
has
it.
to, my opponent actually has to create this arbitrary moment where the mechanistic biological machine that keeps its processes going straight out of like involuntary responses to stimuli has to now grant human beings at some arbitrary point in this process this higher state of godliness.
Okay.
This image bearer problem for my opponent is pretty massive, because if it's the case that man was given the image bearer status, my opponent has to say evolution is no longer true now. It has to stop, because now we have a fixed humanity. From that view, he has to now deny evolution, making it incompatible
I don't
with his
think I
own
have
Christian
very
view.
many death breath to upgrade with. Yeah.
That's it
All
for
right.
me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the introductory statement there, Jim. Bob, we are going to get into an open discussion in just a moment here. So once again, if you still want to help us out, you can still check out our Indiegogo link. But like I said, we are blowing it out of the water, but it all helps, so that maybe we can do a little bit better. That's great. We also still have tickets available for the live event, the Debate Con. Don't mind my microphone thing. I'm going to screw it in. It's been a little bit finicky.
He said
On
something
top of
about
that,
it.
we are going to get into the open discussion.
That's
I'll
pretty
remind our
funny.
live chat, though, we are going to take questions at the end of the discussion. So if you have questions, like so many of you already have, get it into a super chat, and we will read it at the end of this open
Like
discussion.
I said, I'll save a couple of
In the
these
meantime,
just
use those thumbs
to re-roll them if
keep chatting it up in
necessary.
the
Try
live
and get an
chat,
ancient
and
one.
smash that like button. We really appreciate it, guys. Love seeing the numbers shoot up there.
Gambled
So
out there.
let's get into the open discussion, guys. I'll set the timer.
Continue working on that
I'm going to hand it over to
Stricken.
you, Redeemed Zoomer, to
We can get
respond
it
to some
close
of
to
what you just
done.
heard.
Okay, great, thank you. So, a lot of your argument centers around the image of God. Like, that's a big thing for you, right?
Well, not necessarily. One argument, though, you went to the bathroom when I laid out my premised argument, which I'd really like you to respond to.
So, your premised argument about the universal human nature, that one?
Yes.
Yeah, so I do affirm a universal human nature. I'm not a nominalist. I don't think Jesus assumed just a particular human nature.
Okay, so under the evolutionary view, is evolution still happen when
I have a hard time
There's not
defining
much
what a
human evolution because now
nominalist
humans have
is.
technology, but
That's,
the
I'm
point
like,
is
I
that-
kind of have an idea, but I'm not getting it.
How can
This is
technology,
ki-
which would be
anomalous
effective
is-
evolution, stop evolution?
Kind of like a materialist who believes we're all just made of material. We're just, the bits that make us up, nothing more. No, it's in that realm.
I think that's a bit beside the point.
Not
Well, no,
100%.
it's not
I'll have to
actually
look it up
beside the point, because
later.
if you're assuming evolution
make
is this
sure.
process we have no real control over, you're basically begging the question and saying, well, now that we have cool stuff, we're not evolving because we don't need to, right? Which
I said
assumes
we're
a
not
whole-
evolving as much.
As
yeah,
much.
right.
So that
So
means we're de-evolving?
How would you
And out of
determine-
all
how do
these
you
races that
determine
are
how much
evolving,
we're
which is
evolving
the
and how much we're not
supreme
evolving?
race? Like, see,
I don't
this is
think
why I
we can
don't
determine
like
exactly
evolution.
how much. Why
'Cause I
don't
think
to
the
make
idea itself is
statement-
just kind
to
of
make the
racist.
statement we're not evolving
Like,
much actually
in the
assumes
bad
that you
way.
can measure
The
how much
bad
we're evolving.
are.
So I'm asking you, how
The
do you
bad
determine
are.
how much we're evolving right now?
This is how you end up with the idea of the Ubermensch. Well, we're all evolving, but
So wait a
this
second.
race is
You're
more
using
evolved
just
than
a
all the
small
other
amount of
races.
time, which, in contrast to
It goes right over the
millions
head.
of
They don't
years
even
of
see
evolution.
it.
You're saying, well, we don't
are
seem to
you
have that much change in the last
thinking?
couple hundred,
Or stinking
whatever,
thinking.
thousand years. You're saying
I think
that,
you're
you're saying
stinking
anatomical.
thinking.
Look, it's possible that evolution theoretically could continue, but I'm saying it's unlikely that any substantial changes will happen based on purely naturalistic evolution due to the fact that we have technology.
Why does evolution only count if it's substantial?
Why do you think that any evolution at all is a problem? I'm saying there is evolution.
No. You just said substantial. I'm saying, why did you just assume evolution only occurs if it's substantial?
I didn't say evolution only occurs if it's substantial.
Are we evolving right now? Yes or no?
a little bit.
Okay, so is the human nature static right now?
The human nature mainly consists of the human soul. Is the image of God physical or spiritual?
It's spiritual, but the thing is, if
Yes,
you're
it's
going
spiritual.
to, does that require a certain kind of, under your evolutionary view, does the ability to hold the image bearer status, a crab doesn't have it, right?
A crab doesn't have a human soul. That's why.
Okay, does a Neanderthal?
A Neanderthal was never given a human soul, so
Okay, so okay, so what is the arbitrary point at which you give pre-caveman switch in the evolutionary view to human? When in the chronological, anthropological
Where is he? There he
storyline
is.
did the humans receive the image bearer status of God?
When in the chronological timeline, the Garden of Eden.
The Garden of Eden.
Yes.
Okay, so the Garden of Eden, man was fully formed?
Man was fully formed structurally, and he received the spiritual status of image bearer by receiving a human soul when God breathed the breath of life.
So when was Eden then under your timeline?
I said it was about 100,000 years ago, maybe more, maybe less. That's approximately when scientists think human life developed. My theory is not beholden to that exact number. Maybe it's 50,000, maybe it's 20,000, maybe it's 200,000, I don't know. But let's just say it's about 100,000. I'm willing to estimate that.
Okay, so was there a group of people that got image bearer status and the exact similar anatomical humans were just beneath them, didn't get the image bearer status?
Perhaps.
mean, that would be necessary, right? Couldn't, because under evolution, even the people perhaps watching in the chat would argue there isn't an actual moment where humans became human. The process of evolution, you're actually in disagreement with evolution right now, because this long gradual timeline is this constant slow splintering of beasts, right? But under your view, you're saying there's this moment 100,000 years ago where Adam's created, even though other humans existed, right?
Yes, Adam was originally one of them, and then was set apart by God. And
So was Adam a mindless beast?
He wasn't. He was as mindless as the other hominids, maybe similar to Neanderthals.
Did they sin?
They didn't sin because no animals are guilty of sin.
Okay, and so from your view, evolution could continue hypothetically, right?
In a physical manner, yes.
In a physical manner, could we devolve and have smaller brains and no longer use reasoning and do philosophy?
It's possible. That doesn't mean it's going to happen, but yeah, it's theoretically possible.
Okay,
Well, all you have to do is quit teaching it. But seriously, look how many people have no idea what's going on in this conversation because it hasn't been taught. Right? We still, human beings still need to be taught things. We still, that's
even if they
right.
have almost
From
Even if they have almost no
more of
brain,
an
we are
orthodox
still
view, I
like that.
think,
You know about
of
that?
Christianity.
Well, I know there's humans born without brains. I'm
The
asking,
Bible is
what
a
under your
liturgy,
metaphysics
right?
gives them,
It's
right?
a lesson
Because
unto
if you
itself
think
that you must
evolution in your
learn,
opener
and
was
there's a
very
certain
beautiful
process to
story,
learning it that
of
allows
man
you to
evolving out of
interact
darkness,
with the energies of God.
God could have given
That,
a
like, see,
crap about
I'm not.
life. It wouldn't have
I
mattered.
just kind of.
It wouldn't have mattered. If the brain isn't necessary for image bearer status, from your view, isn't it possible from your view that God could have just given any beast, mindless beast, the image bearer status?
Yes, God could have, but the reason God gave humans the image bearer status, the reason God gave humans who have these big brains image bearer status, is because we are to be God's priests on earth. God has a purpose for us. God wants us to build things. God wants us to name things.
Priests of evolution?
Priests of God.
Well, I mean, of evolution too. We're going to be, because if you're the father, if you're the priest of your home, you should teach your kid evolution.
I mean, sure, you teach your kids lots of things.
So you should teach them we came from beasts.
Yes, that's what we teach in science.
Science. Okay, so are you saying evolution is a scientific theory too?
Evolution is a scientific theory.
Is there anything required for something to be a scientific theory?
So scientific theory is not just a hypothesis. It's a hypothesis that's pretty well agreed upon that there's lots of evidence for.
Is there anything necessary as a prerequisite for something to be a scientific theory?
I'm not sure what you're asking, but...
He's asking what is a
Well, I would
scientific
say for
theory.
something to be a scientific theory in natural science, would you agree that evolution is a claim about natural science?
It's a claim about the natural world, and natural science studies the natural world.
Okay.
This guy's back to
Is there,
interact.
so, can you have a scientific theory without going through the scientific method?
The scientific method is used to test scientific theories, but it's a bit different for evolution because it's a past thing.
So he's just
So
granting
you can
himself.
argue about the what to classify evolution as, whether it's a scientific theory.
Well, I think it's relevant. The reason I think it's relevant is if you're holding the view that Christianity is true from your view, and evolution is true, and you think it's just as priestly to teach evolution, you should probably be able
I never
to
said it's just I never said it's just as priestly to teach evolution than to teach Christianity. I would teach evolution the same way I teach like the American Revolution or the way I teach about the Mongol Empire.
Well,
I see evolution as
I
history,
understand.
though.
I understand, but that category is history, and science is more rigorous than history, right? So I was wondering, do you know what the scientific method is?
Well, yeah, it requires experimenting, so that's why you can't exactly use the scientific method to test evolution. We can test evolution on a small scale with like.
So would you agree?
Yeah, that's forced
experiment
breeding is not
necessary
evolution.
for a scientific theory?
Well, it really depends on how you're defining it. I mean, I'm not
Scientific theory. I'm saying scientific theory is always at the tail end of an experiment. It sounds like you conceded that you really can't do an experiment on evolution, therefore it's not a scientific theory. So if you're going to teach it to your kids, at least teach them correctly and rigorously that's actually not a scientific theory. It's a post-diction narrative about, it's basically an origin story.
Well, it depends on how you define a scientific theory.
Yeah,
Like people
it's
were
a
doing
faith
science
unto
before
itself.
Francis Bacon thought of the
Either
scientific
believe
method
it
with
or you
experiment.
don't, right? Just
Okay.
like God. It's
It
a
really
faith
depends
unto
on how you
itself.
define it.
Either believe
All
it or
right.
you don't.
So
But let's just say, for the sake of argument, let's just say that we'll teach evolution as history, as natural history. That's
Okay.
how people often classify it. It's natural history.
okay, and you believe
he's
that when
granting
God
it's not
created,
a theory.
He included sin?
So, did God create darkness? Yes or no?
No.
God created, well, light, darkness would be the absence of light.
Yeah.
So it would be an effect of good.
So sin is the absence of goodness. Just the way God created light, and there's
Okay.
also darkness. God created good, and there's also
So God created, so from your view, God created evil.
Nope.
Well, I mean, wouldn't darkness be evil under your view?
Dark. It's implied because Genesis says God saw the light was good and separated it from the darkness.
Okay,
So is
last
the
one of
darkness
these,
good?
and that will also get this
Not
stricken to
good the way the light is.
25.
Not
But I don't know.
good the way the light
I
is.
just
It's not if
like
the light
did.
is-
I
Does
had
it have
points
its
to
own
spend, so I
ontology?
spent,
Like, are you a
spent them
dualist?
there.
No, well, evil doesn't have its
Suppose
own
I could have
ontology
spent
either, so
them
that's why
on
God can't create
Okay,
evil.
and
Evil has
sin,
no
and
ontology.
because you argue that because
LOD on the
lyrically, I would
LOD.
say that you said darkness
So if I
exists,
decide
which
to
you
make a
say
wave
you
of
I heard
light
you say in a
build.
debate that Satan,
But I don't really
because
need to
Satan
make
could
it though.
fall, you're
I
saying
don't need
sin
to.
already exists.
I don't
Is
think
that
I
correct?
need to do a no
The fall
set
of Satan occurred before the fall of Adam.
I'm
So-
saying, are you
build
saying the
for
fall
any
of Satan
reason.
was sin itself?
The fall of Satan was sin against God, yes.
No, okay, so you're calling the rebellion against God sin, right?
Sure.
Okay, and would you say, are you saying that the fall of Satan had an effect on other angelic beings the same way the fall of Adam had an effect on man?
I'm not sure how that works exactly. I'm not sure if there was if he was like the federal head of some of the angels, the way Adam's the federal head of all humanity. It seems like the angels just willingly decided with Satan. But the
Okay.
problem is that before the fall of Adam, there were evil beings. There were the fallen angels who are evil spiritual beings. So in that sense, evil existed in the world before Adam. Evil has no ontology of its own. But there were still evil forces. There were still forces.
So what's the fall of Adam then under your view then? What's falling?
I'll explain. So God offered Adam the tree of life. Historically, the tree of life has been interpreted to be Christ. If Adam had taken of the tree of life, he would have achieved theosis right then and there, and he would have
Theosis
eternal
is
life then
the
and
sharing
now.
of
then
and
there would
within
be,
God's energies,
all evil could be defeated
from my
right then and
understanding.
there, right?
But that's what they're referring
But
to.
instead,
Oh,
God
God, the
sided
ideas of
with
heaven and hell are
over God.
not
Adam
actually
forsook
biblical.
eternal life
They're
and
based
chose to
on
rebel
like
against God
poems
instead. That's what the
and
fall was. The fall wasn't
plays,
first instance of evil. The fall was
from
humanity. God's great.
I just brought you through
well, not
humanity.
the Dark Age.
Age.
Well, they call them the Dark Age, but it's
Ontology
the
right?
right
Under this evolutionary view.
from the
Human soul
Enlightenment
is
period,
static.
right? There were all
Right,
these
so this human soul
Uh,
could exist in a beast.
theology-based
That's not
poems, stories, da.
It theoretically could. God
And
Right.
through
So
those,
God,
the
your
idea
view,
of
God,
angels
Christ himself, right,
and demons
could
and heaven and
have
hell,
just
as
well,
a lot of people
totally,
understand
just as well,
today,
wouldn't change
were
anything under your theological view.
were
Christ himself could
somehow
have
integrated
incarnated
into
as a donkey.
Protestant churches.
Well, that depends what
Like,
makes
so-
us human. Does our
Like,
physical structure
it became
make
part
us
of every
A human under the evolutionary
story
view
for
is
what
in
I don't
transient
even
form, so there is no
like,
human. It's
purposely
just a temporary
like the
form right now.
My idea
And
of
this-
stories of
my
the
idea of what a human
Bible
is
were
not from evolution.
purposefully misconstrued.
biologically it is because
Well, I
if,
look at it.
I understand, but in our form,
Biologically, we're
currently,
98% the same as apes, or as chimpanzees. Our
I understand.
90%.
Could God have incarnated as an ape?
Not that there aren't
Could have,
good
but he chose not to. That wasn't the plan.
theological,
He could have done.
societal,
There's no
and
problem with
philosophical
Christ incarnating
philosophical
as
ideas behind
any
like
given
Dante's
arbitrary
Inferno.
beast.
There's good shit there.
Because from your
There's
view,
good shit to
It's
make you
not
think there.
which beast. It's not which beast. It's that he could have just incarnated in any beast. It was that God breathed life in an arbitrary beast called a human being at the time, right?
It's not arbitrary because humans are the most developed life form. It's the beast that God providentially intended to have the human soul.
Okay, but if he used evolution, God is currently using evolution.
Need to get a
It's
ring,
logically possible
a
for
puzzle
us,
ring.
right? It's actually necessarily the
puzzle
case
ring.
that we are still evolving right now in some sort of micro and unknown macro way. So it could be the case under your theology that you call Christianity here, that if it took,
I'll save that
from your
one.
view, it took Christ another 500,000 to to a million years to come back, right? Theoretically, we could physically evolve out of this skin suit, and you would say a hunched over, snarling beast, right, who's at the will of nature, would still hold the image bearer status of God, right?
From a purely logical perspective, it's possible, but do you think God will allow that in his providence?
Well, it's not a matter of what he would allow, because under your view, it doesn't even matter. What matters, this is the problem here. If evolution were true and was still in effect, and hypothetically you agree that we can devolve, in a sense, to a hunched over, snarling beast, right? And back to the nature of, animal nature. What would stop, here's the question. What would stop from your theology, from your theological view,
evolution,
what would stop the beast man right now devolving into a hunched over creature and going back to the wilderness and being animalistic? Where would he lose the image bearer status in that process?
Get out of this right away.
Well, I'll answer that. So the image bearer status is not the reason why that wouldn't happen. I think there's a different reason. It's so that we could still relate to our first parents, Adam and Eve. So if we were so different, if we evolved to be so different that we could not relate to them, that would be problematic, because then we couldn't understand the message of salvation. For example, it's theoretically possible that human society could devolve so far that marriage doesn't exist anymore, and then we wouldn't understand most of the stories in the Bible that are based on these concepts like law, marriage, and kings and all that. Like Jesus is described as a king. Isn't it theoretically possible that human society could evolve such that we no longer have kings or marriages? Is that possible?
King would be some sort of hierarchical representation or extension of the church itself, but we're talking about nature here. I'm talking about biology, not social.
It's more
you don't believe
pushing,
in biological evolution, but obviously
I'll take it right now.
Over time. We've seen lots of that happening in our culture. Is it possible humanity could devolve socially so much that we have no concept of a king, no concept of hierarchy, no concept of marriage?
No.
Let's say
it's not possible. From my view, anyway, it's not possible that reality could ever be structured in a way that somehow avoids hierarchy.
And intelligence, no intelligence on it
either.
either.
The leftists get their way, they make a commune.
Requires hierarchy.
Here.
What if they think of what if they make some supercomputer that makes everything be perfectly in order?
Requires force to keep it in order from.
So I'll reforge it and try and get a better one later, if a better one doesn't drop.
Requires maintenance, which requires protection of force. So from bad actors.
We already have AI that can do a lot of things.
We don't have AI, we have augmented intelligence, but it's relevant to the point that hierarchy, the nature of reality, in nature especially, is definitely hierarchical regardless of the social paradigms. For instance, feminism, maybe you agree with me, feminism sits on top of basically a lie. It's basically we built a stage for people to believe that feminism is a real thing, and really it's completely undergirded by the force of men. So they get to play like there's some liberty, but it is the case at any given point, men could just take it over and just get rid of not only their rights but other people's rights. They could just do it with force, right? Okay. So I'm saying that's the brutality I'm referring to tie it back to evolution. I'm saying from your perspective, it's totally logically consistent that evolution is still happening, and it potentially could continue to happen.
It's pretty good intelligence.
More of a beast-like man than an elevated man. And that's totally logically possible. It's evolutionarily, from your view, practically possible.
What's on our other one?
It's physically possible, but
okay.
Well, I need
saying God won't let it is not what's testing your theology and your compatibility with evolution. What's testing is you have this thing called image bearer, and you call the nature of man the image
Will
bearer, right?
resist
So
all
when I
odds
say premise one,
for a
is it
crit hit
absolutely necessary
chance.
as an antecedent of salvation for Christ to incarnate as a human nature? You actually disagree with premise one. You know why? Because you just admitted that Christ could have incarnated as
It should be,
non-human
I think,
nature,
God.
and it would
Kind of
have
a long
been
list.
just as well.
But crit
Well,
is
I think
on
the
it.
physical characteristics of humans are
That's a long
accidental to
list
human
as well.
nature.
So,
Because humans don't all have the same DNA. They don't all have the same physical characteristics.
you want
No two
McDonald's?
humans have the same physical
I
characteristics.
don't got
So
no
where
McDonald's.
is this mythical Platonist form of a human structure? Where is it? You would say Adam.
Are you talking about the universal of a human nature?
Ah, shit. Your mommy's gonna
where's
grab
the
you
universal?
McDonald's.
Well, it doesn't
Turn-
exist
turn it
as a
on
single
down on
object,
this
right? Because if you're gonna,
It's like they turned up the gains on somebody's mic. You got rid of that.
well, I would say in the mind of God. What would you say?
I would also say in the mind of God.
Okay.
For the particulars of that universal to somewhat deviate from that universal.
Yeah, we're not getting McDonald's.
Well, it can't deviate from the universal because that would be a contradiction.
But if the
There we
universal
go.
includes the physical
Boom.
structure, then
And it
all the
capped at
particulars would deviate from that
6.
in some way, or at least most of them.
So
because
there
none
we
of us
go.
have identical physical structure.
You're actually proving my point. Evolution, there can be
A
no
pretty good piece right
universals under
there.
evolution. So you trying to tie the universals that exist in the mind of God and the reality that He created is reflective of the mind of God. Evolution actually denies the universal and consequently produces nominalism. There's no escaping the nominalistic reality of evolution. Why? Because even things like species, dude, Redeem Zoomer, even things like species from the evolution proponent himself would say that is just arbitrary. There is no
Alrighty.
real thing called the species. That changes. That is not a fixed universal category as well, because these things die off or change. They don't maintain their identity over time, which brings me back to this premise. Premise one,
What?
is it an absolutely necessary antecedent of salvation for Christ to incarnate in human nature? You have to say no,
There
it
we
could have been
go.
donkey nature. So are you willing to say that today?
No, because the human nature is a human soul. Christ needs to incarnate.
No, there's human nature, but you're saying the human nature now could have been embodied in a donkey then. If the human nature is purely soul, is it possible under your theology that a human nature could be embodied in a
Place
donkey?
all
I already
these.
said yes.
Okay.
I'm not going to do that. It's possible. God's not
He,
gonna-
well, no, not that he can do it. It's like, it's irrelevant. The creature is
Free.
irrelevant, right?
The physical, it's not irrelevant. It's just not absolute.
So God could have chose, right, instead of Adam, he could have
Right.
chose Adam's dog, and from your view, Christianity would still be fully intact, right?
That's an appeal to absurdity. Because
No, it's
It's a hypothetical, not an appeal. Oh my God.
God could have incarnated into a banana. God could have
Okay.
tied our sins
And
to
so what would be the healing?
All
Right,
right.
because you also, being a Christian, right, even with
Still
your, what I
need-
would call perverse Christian paradigm here, is that if P1 is
Rasmus
true, is no
Folly.
longer true.
Doesn't
So
want to give
if
it to me
P1,
for
how
some
would you
reason.
restructure that
He
under
wants to give
your
me everything
Christian
else.
paradigm? It is an absolute
Rasmus
necessary
Folly.
antecedent of salvation for Christ to incarnate in
Got a few of those
what
already.
any nature.
human nature. I said a human nature.
Well, what's a human? That's a category that's in transient form. What is human nature?
All right, let's take a look at
human soul. The soul correlates with
our.
I know, but when you say human, this you're
not in the hypotheticals. In the
Okay,
real
let's start
world,
working through these.
human soul always
We should be able to
What are you
walk through
referring to as a
Q16
human?
now. We should just be able to walk through it.
no
Okay,
human.
kill
This is like the gender
chlamydia.
debates. What are you referring to when you say human?
Go
When
get
I
some
say, "Hey,
penicillin and kill
and
your
they say,
chlamydia
"Allah has a
now."
foot," and I go, "What's a foot?" And they say, "Nothing
She's
like
here.
Allah's foot." And I go, "Well, how do you know what
Yeah.
a foot is?" You're doing the same thing right now. Okay, when you agree with premise one, it is absolutely necessary an antecedent of salvation for Christ to incarnate in human nature. I ask you,
Oh.
what does human mean?
It's a descendant of Adam. Christ
Is that-
incarnated as a descendant of Adam.
Human, but you just said it could have been a donkey. So is
If Adam had been a donkey, Christ would have incarnated as a donkey.
but it would have still been human nature from your.
So, now you said, is it possible for Christ to have been human if he incarnated into a donkey? He could have been human, but he also had to incarnate into one of the sons of Adam to redeem Adam. At first, you just asked, could he have been human if he incarnated into a donkey?
I'm not sure you know what the problem is here. You have a problem right now because the thing we call human, you're making a reference to human, right?
Yes.
If premise one is true, that the necessary antecedent for salvation is for Christ to incarnate in human nature, but you're arguing human nature could just as well exist in a donkey. What is it you're calling human?
Well, I'm calling human anyone who's descended from Adam. And all the people who are descended from Adam have a human soul.
And Adam was a human?
He was a human once. He was a human person once he received the human soul.
Okay, so
Like the rest of us once he received the human soul. Before that, he was a Homo sapien. You could apply scientific labels. That doesn't really matter. Before that, yes, he was a beast. Before that, he was a beast. Then he received a human soul. He became human. Everyone who's descended from Adam is human in the same sense that Adam was.
So it has nothing to do with the form of the being at all. Human, from your view, it has nothing to do with our form or
Doesn't have
how we.
nothing to do with it. The form is not the physical matter is not essential to what it is to be.
So it could have been the case that a donkey was crucified, and your Christianity wouldn't change a bit.
Again, if Adam had been a donkey, if for whatever reason God chose to give donkeys the Imago Dei, then the entire story of redemption would have taken place with donkeys.
Right, and that would be consistent under your Christian view, right?
Yes, but God had his reasons for choosing humans instead. Why do you think God chose humans instead of donkeys to bear the image of God? Why do you think that was?
Well, I think we have a different view of Genesis, so I'm not going to go into exegesis and hermeneutics with you, but I would say that if you go to creation, God created man with specifically, not to evolve, but specifically to embody and to hold his image bearer status, and gives him free will to do so, as well as the faculties. Okay. I don't know, Redeem Zoomer, if are you
What's our next seasonal challenge
so
here?
He gives us free will. You don't even believe in free will,
Yes,
which is...
we believe in free will.
Okay, so... Wait a second, really?
Kill Gom?
Okay, so does an animal,
Dom is in
breath
Act
of life, have
1.
free will?
No, I'm
So they
wrong.
just do stuff, right?
They're enslaved to their
No,
passions.
he's still in Act 3.
They're enslaved to their passions, right? But under
There
your
he is.
view, a human who has free will can do evil and good?
We have the ability, because we have free will, to do evil or good, yes.
Can we evolve to not do evil or good?
No, because the will comes from the soul, not from our physical flesh.
Okay, so right now, human beings with a will could either choose to do good or evil, but they're still evolving, so they're actually superseding their physical dominoes, if you will, correct?
Yeah, if we evolved into something else, we would still have the
You know,
faculties of the
it's
soul,
like-
we would still have a mind, we would still
We
have
look
a
at
will, we would still have
philosophy,
So
Okay.
we wouldn't be like
theology,
crabs are today. We somehow evolved
and
into crabs.
go back and look, you know,
Things keep evolving.
a lot of these arguments and discussions got sorted out a long fucking time ago. Like, not so much this one on evolution, right? But a lot of the other stuff that's getting debated again about philosophies got sorted out, for the most part, a long time ago. And because it hasn't been taught, because, you know, it hasn't been
So it's like I'm not
resuscitated to people, right? Or
I'm
retold,
still not sure,
just
though,
taught,
what is being healed.
because it's so difficult for
If
like
there's
people got no clue.
universal
Like
human
90% of the stuff we argue about today in politics was sorted out 10,000 years ago.
When I ask a
It just
a
was.
troon,
It
defender
was.
what a woman is, what are they
Okay, now we
referring
gotta
to?
finish.
They just say the thing.
Go
person
kill
who says they're a
Izul,
woman, and I go, what are you
and
referring
then
to,
get the
right?
rest of
You're
our
doing this
bounties we haven't gotten.
with human nature right now, where there is no real knowable category of human nature.
Yes,
Izul
it's a rational animal. A man is a rational animal, an animal with a rational soul.
Okay, but
is
rational
here,
there are
I
other
believe.
animals like
Yeah.
crows and corvid.
They don't have rational souls. They don't have rational souls. They have relatively big brains compared to some other animals. They don't have rational souls.
Okay, but you're saying we evolved, right? So it's possible that a bird who gets smarter could meet, like I said in my opener, the threshold, the naturalistic.
They can't. God needs to implant a rational soul in a crow for that crow to become human, to become a
Human.
To become,
So a crow could become human, though.
if God wants to make a crow human, can God make a crow human? If God
So
wants
God can make contradictions.
It's not a contradiction because you're not defining human in the same...
Is a crow a human?
Well, are you defining human
Yeah, so
as
it's a contradiction because it violates the law of identity. X equals X. A crow is a crow, a human is a human, right? So saying that God could turn
Well, let's do
a
structurally.
crow
first.
into a
What
human
is
is a
crow the
contradiction.
same as a human?
Structurally, a crow is not the same as a human.
It's a
Under
violation.
evolution,
man.
is it possible in a million, cajillion, 4,000 billion years for a crow to evolve to take the form of a human?
Yes, that happens sometimes. It's called analogous structures.
No, I mean like standing and doing and
Yes,
debating.
it's possible. It's
So
possible.
under your theological view, beasts could evolve to
See if I
walk
can get this
and do
guy.
debates. Let's
Oh,
say there's
yeah.
another debate
No,
channel
no, no. They,
with with a me and a type of you, but it's a crow. They could actually be doing rational debates that's strictly given by their brain power, not by the
Okay,
rational soul,
we're
by just strict brain power, right?
that way.
no, because we are
Let's get
self-conscious.
this.
Brain power
Should
is
give
not
us
strong
more
enough to produce
death breath,
self-consciousness.
which is
The
handy
most the crow can
dandy.
evolve into is a type of ape.
Oh, maybe
Type
not.
of Neanderthal. Neanderthals don't do debates.
Okay, but
Why not?
if evolution was true, you're saying there's no threshold at which the brain power could produce a debating monkey.
No, because debates require self-consciousness and they require free will.
Well, then now now your Christian view is incompatible with evolution because evolution says that we evolved and produced our consciousness out of an emergent property system.
No, that's not what I believe. Maybe some people who believe in evolution believe in that. But that
So
I think is not possible to
now
evolution.
is
Evolution is descent.
again. There's no experimentation. There's no. Now it's down to his preferences. I prefer it be like this.
What other account
Because I prefer that I said this, but I prefer that it mean that.
Proponent have other than a naturalistic explanation.
They have a natural
I need to kill this guy a whole bunch too. I need to get
who would say that the brain alone is
a recipe for the staff of hurting from him.
and having the self-consciousness. Like,
But
do you believe
not that worried
self-consciousness
about it. What am I
can
doing?
arise
I'm
purely from
doing
No, I
Cecil
don't
Journey
believe any of
stuff.
that.
Neither do I. That's
But I'm saying your view is actually
Act
incompatible
3
with the
bounty.
entailments of evolution, though.
Well, why?
Because
4
the entailments of
bounty, Act
evolution
5 bounty.
is strict biological
3, 4,
mechanistic
5.
reality. Which,
Guess that's what
which
we're off to
means-
do.
Wait, hold on. Hold on. No, evolution has an
What we got?
entailment,
31
right? If evolution was
items.
true,
Might as well go clear out.
Without you introducing the ingredients of theism and re-establishing what you think evolution is and making it compatible, forcing compatibility with
10
theism.
o'clock.
Evolution on its face is purely naturalistic, correct?
No.
It's not?
You
Okay, cool.
defined evolution earlier. You didn't include naturalism anywhere in that definition.
I just asked you, what else is evolution other than pure natural events occurring, biological events occurring, neurological events unfolding?
Ooh, Eric's
Evolution is
count.
descent with modification. That's the definition of evolution.
Is descent with modification purely material and naturalistic?
Not necessarily. You could
How is it not?
Save that.
You
Might
could
use
believe
it
in
for
descent with
leveling.
modification.
I didn't ask what you can believe. I said, how is evolution a naturalistic
Say that.
account of matter in motion? Whatever you want to give it, what it's doing, it's splintering, it's changing, whatever. I'll grant you all of the things, right? I'm saying if it's not purely mechanistic and determined by
Well, I already
physical
have a Torah.
forces,
I better
laws of
Torah.
physics, laws of nature, thermodynamics, laws of chemistry, what else? I'm asking you, what else is influencing pure evolution?
I want to clarify what I'm arguing. I'm not claiming that everything we are today is the product of evolution.
I know you don't believe that. I'm saying under evolution, for evolution to be true without any theism involved, what else is evolution other than strict mechanistic determinism?
If you are presupposing that there is no theism involved, that would be the logical conclusion of what evolution is. But evolution does not require you to presuppose there is no theism involved. Where are you getting that from?
Well, I'm saying evolution, if it were true, what else could you use scientifically, right? Not that evolution is a scientific theory. I think we established that's not the case. Is that what else would you be looking at other than purely naturalistic physical events unfolding?
Well, I'm still asking you to define where evolution requires a naturalistic world. You haven't done that.
Where it requires it?
Yeah, why does the
Because
why does evolution
because
require a
evolution, how it's defined, evolution, how it's defined, doesn't necessitate anything extra.
It doesn't necessitate it, but it doesn't forbid it either.
Well, I didn't ask if it forbid it. If evolution doesn't need your theistic view, I'm asking if it's not purely determined. How are you going to possibly argue with current evolution proponents arguing that
the only thing I can give this guy credit for is in trying to link evolution to God and Christianity is he's admitting that evolution on its face requires millions of miracles, right? That first spark that creates the first bit of life and the first pool of muck, right? That first bit of life is going to die almost immediately, right? So it has to be recreated again and again and again, right? Over and over and over for evolution to happen. There has to be millions upon millions, hundreds of billions, gazillions, little miracles. What?
Using their human bodies to carry out those free will choices.
Like they just grant themselves variety. Like, oh, well, there's all these different animals. And so you're like, where did that variety come from? How did that happen? What's the mechanism? They just grant it. Oh, it happens. It's nothing. Like, come on, man. That's not, dude. That's like,
if you believe in evolution,
and they tell other people who you believe in skydiving. Well, what the fuck do you believe in? You believe there was nothing, then boom, the universe. I just don't think that's the way that works. That's not.
No, I'm saying
Yes, not buying that.
Humans were still at the effect of biological
Oh,
causes.
we're done here.
If you still believe that's the case, I'm asking you to decipher and distinguish between how much of humans, at any given moment in time, are at the effect of pure biological forces, and how much are they at the effect of their own free will.
Well, I would say with the conquest of Canaan or any other human event that you propose, how much of it is the body and how much of it is the soul? And however you would answer that, I would say that's the same thing. Insofar as it's the body, it's the product of evolution. And insofar as it's the soul, it's the product of the breath of life supernaturally planted by God.
Okay,
so then get done with this bounty. You want applesauce? Not right now. No. You already had breakfast. We have to wait for lunch. I'll give you some applesauce with lunch, all right, little feller?
Okay, so if you hold
no.
You defend free will if
breakfast and lunch are too close together to need a snack. Right?
Okay, hold on.
You get a snack between lunch and dinner.
Did you do a good thing, or did God supersede your faculties, give you irresistible grace, and then you just did whatever the marionette machine?
Well, just because God foreknows and predestines everything in some sense. By the way, this is a standard Christian for many Christian theologians since the beginning of church, by the way.
I agree with you that knowledge and cause are not the same, but I ask you a very direct question. When you do something good in your Christian worldview,
yes,
are you at the effect of irresistible grace?
Not every good thing we do is due to irresistible grace. You can really say it's us doing it, and there was no force compelling us to do it. But God still planned it out as part of his providence. There's a difference between God doing something providentially and God doing something supernaturally. Only some of the events are done by God supernaturally. Every event in the universe is part of God's providence and can be said to be caused by God. But not everything can be said to be caused by God.
I don't know enough about Christianity.
I'm just wondering, because free will is definitely related to this topic, because for to hold a Christian view, in addition to the necessity of salvation, that Christ must incarnate in human nature.
Just kind of sounds like some of this stuff is
into a donkey,
double
speak, it means the donkey
right?
no longer has the donkey nature, and you basically are just a nominalist at that point. But in addition to that, you would need mind, you would need some sort of rational experience evaluation process. This is why I brought up the evolutionary view. From their view, our evaluation is reduced to chemical reactions. Do you hold that view, or do you reject that view?
I don't think it's purely reduced to chemical reactions. I think it's correlated with chemical reactions. But once again, it's the same as body and soul. I am a substance dualist in that I think we have both body and soul. I assume you believe that too, because Christ himself said that fear not the one who can destroy the body, but fear the one who can destroy the body and the soul. I'm assuming you believe that we are body and soul, right?
Yeah, I think there has to be a metaphysical aspect to us. Otherwise, determinism, we can't know anything. That's why I'm concerned and confused that you hold a determinist view. How is it?
Oh, my
you hold a
followers
determinist
dead.
view
I'm like,
and
where are my
evolutionary view, which is
champions?
just extra determinism, and think that you have the capacity or faculties to know things if any conclusion you're coming to is either biologically determined or theologically determined. I'm not sure how you know anything to be true.
Not everything has to be either biologically or theologically determined. The fact that God in some way includes everything in his providence doesn't mean that he is sort of intervening in the universe and like pushing people in certain directions. It's sort of like God is the author of the story and we are the characters in the story. It's not as though God has to give irresistible grace every time someone does a good thing, nor is it that God puts evil in the hearts of someone when they do a bad thing.
Okay,
That's
so
standard compatibilism, by the way.
okay, so I think what we got so far is from your Christian view to make it compatible with Christianity that Christ didn't really need to incarnate in any given form, that human nature could have been placed into donkey, which in case there's no donkey nature anymore. And then
no, because he needs to incarnate into a descendant of Adam. So if somehow,
How could the donkey? Well, I mean, why wouldn't the donkey be a descendant of Adam? What if he named the donkey Adam?
Then he could have incarnated into whatever humanity looked like at that time.
I understand, but
Which could have been a donkey.
I understand. I know, but from your view, Adam, even the first man, like there's a bunch of. It sounds like this is. Correct me if I'm wrong, Richard. Is that your chronology is God created. There was already sin and evil in the world and death and decay. Then, thousands, millions of years later, when we started walking upright, he breathed life into Adam, right, and gave him the choice to act on his will or align himself with God's will, right?
Pretty much.
So then there was the fall, right? So you're saying the fall happened millions of years later after the humans evolved, right?
Maybe not billions,
yeah,
or whatever amount you guys say, right? You just obviously it requires a lot of time because you believe God
bargain,
created basically pond scum and then it got up on its legs
build
and then it
Pride's
figured
Fall,
out how
I'm
to
pretty
think a little
sure.
bit. And then it got
I
to the
think
point
that
where
is an LOD build, but I'm going to throw it in here anyways,
you have
just
this view that
in case it does turn out I need it for
God
the build.
chose Adam, but it was arbitrary.
You know, and I can either put it in the cube if I need it in the cube or wear it if I wear
You're
it,
saying
right?
that the development of man toward an end where he had a big enough brain, then he earned the breath of life image bearer status.
Let's burn some gold.
Even though I believe in evolution,
Burn some gold.
All of it because God's providence includes
Let's go
everything.
here.
So we still evolved exactly as God wanted us to be. So I said the image of God is
Leave about 100 of those.
But before God actually created anything physical, in God's mind, he conceived of what he wanted humans to look like. So he willed that evolution should happen such that we would evolve exactly as God wanted us to. So just because the physical structure is not part of the essence of our human nature, God still will.
Guess I need to gamble or make some gems, so get about 100 of these Marquise level ones.
It's absolutely not arbitrary.
So he just wanted Adam to look like Adam, and then he created, there were other people that you would call not human, right?
They are human structurally, or near human structurally.
Here we go.
Structurally, they were not given the breath of life. So,
Okay, so they had to, hold on, so they had as big a brain as Adam?
Possibly.
Well, they would, because if Adam was a part and Adam had parents, he would be the nature of his predecessor, right? His parents, right?
It is possible that the giving of the human soul did actually alter Adam's physiology in some way. I'm open to that possibility. But for the sake of argument, let's assume they had the same.
So Adam had parents,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
Would it be wrong for Adam to kill his parents?
It would. Well, that's a
Can
good
he
question.
save?
It is a good question. I think it's wrong to kill an animal.
So I think I do need those for
Like generally, like
rolling sockets and whatnot. So,
and grilling it for dinner, because they are somewhat similar to us? Here's a good question.
I mean, if you were to bite the bullet here, you would have to say it actually wouldn't be. Whether we need it or not is irrelevant to whether it's immoral, because now you're just determining arbitrarily what need is, right? I asked the vegan this: is it okay to kill the animal? They said, well, we don't need to. And I said, what if you're starving? And then they're like, yeah, we needed to. I'm asking.
I guess, yeah, sure. I guess because
Adam could kill his parents.
It wouldn't be wrong in the same sense that it's wrong to kill other humans.
Gotcha. So in your view, if it just was added in to Romans that through Adam sin was created,
see how many of those we
they
got
could have just
now.
added that Adam completely murdered his family and the entire quote society of beasts that look exactly like him, simply because he's not of their nature. But you can't tell me what nature they are, right?
Well, they are
Four.
structurally
So
human. They're the same
on there.
nature that, like, or at least a similar nature. I guess homoiousios with a gorilla.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing is,
You keep asking all these weird hypotheticals.
No. These are hypotheticals to test their consistency. They're not. They might be weird to your view, but it's a fair question to ask. If there's an arbitrary, or let's say not arbitrary, you're saying God at some point created
Three
an
of
evolutionary
these.
process that produced a bunch of beasts to the extent where they had.
I can make more than three. I guess I got
to do
20.
things. But you're saying, well, Adam existed, and before God gave him the breath of life in his creating him from the dust, he actually
And go here and see if we can get a follower to not
Adam,
die.
been Adam's beast girlfriend, and she just didn't get involved, right? And so, what nature is she? I'm not sure what nature she is.
All right, in 5 minutes, just jump in here, guys. In 5 minutes, we'll get to
I think we can
audience
say,
questions.
Yeah,
Adam's
that's
life dramatically
frustrating.
changed after being given
There we go.
life. I'm not sure if he even remembered any
All
of
right.
his life before that as an animal. Like, if you used to be a chimpanzee, then you became a human, you wouldn't really think of your younger chimpanzee days as like the good old
There we
days
go.
as being a child. You wouldn't really think of that. I'm not sure
Later
if Adam
on, we
ever
can
in his
roll
previous life at all.
more intelligence on
I
that.
would ask you if,
Right.
if you think there's some metaphysical thing that distinguishes Adam and everyone who came from him, that's different than every other
There we go.
nearly identical
Our
structural
nature
piece.
skills on
What
our
I'm
follower
confused
are
about is, what is it you think
okay.
Adam, before he was Adam, because he wouldn't have a name, because he wouldn't be human nature, what is it
We
a
still
near
need
identical
cool
beast
down
would be
for
doing
now.
from an evolutionary view
Oops.
with the same exact brain power that Adam suddenly has the capability?
Power shield.
That what's different about the?
And
you
yeah,
have to
we're
actually
going to
say
keep the cheap
that
death.
two beasts with the same
Yeah.
exact brain size and capacity to know things.
Let's
You're taking Adam and saying this one
grab
is
this
now
Oculus
God's
ring.
breath of life because of his
See if we have
Hold on.
enough
Well,
to
I'm just saying,
forge it.
I'm rhetorical here.
Okay.
I'm saying that Adam,
Just
because
get
God wanted us
the
to
better
evolve,
one.
and He got humans to a certain
Nope,
place
not
where
even
they
close.
evolved, right?
Yeah.
And that's what justifies then giving the breath
I
of
forgot.
life.
I
Now
need
we
to go
have
do
brain
all
power
those other.
to manage stewardship, right?
All right,
I'm
let's
saying
go
that
to
these
Act
other
4.
beasts have
Oh, I
the
was
same
in
exact
4.
standard of
I need Act
brain,
3.
same exact capacity, same exact
Did I
ability
not?
to obtain
Oh,
knowledge
I skipped
and
Act 3.
navigate in the world and do things. Let's say they were all hunting.
Yeah.
Let's say they can communicate with each other, right?
Maybe.
I'm
Maybe.
saying if you, I'm just wondering what is it, because it sounds like a contradiction here. Is that you're saying the necessary precondition for the breath of life is an evolutionary
Okay, Act
threshold
1,
of brain
Act
power,
2.
right?
I didn't say it's necessary, but I think it was according
Yeah.
to God's good pleasure that it would be.
That's 5.
So it's not necessary that
Not
we have the
absolutely.
brain capacity to then do complex thinking, thoughts about thoughts, and so
It
forth.
depends on what you mean by necessary. Is it absolutely necessary for holding the human soul?
Oh, 3. Yeah, I'm missing the
What
war.
God chose to do
War
for
tapestry. I don't have any
Yes.
war
Okay,
tapestry.
but I'm asking
So
you,
I do need that.
from your
Okay.
view,
Okay.
a beast
Okay.
who doesn't have the capacity to do philosophy based on its brain power could hypothetically hold the image bearer status.
They can. Yes, they can be a the human soul. At the same way, okay, a kid who's born retarded, a kid who's born with basically no brain.
Yeah,
Is
so
that kid a person?
Yes?
Jim Bob, like
No, I know. I know, but
if you
I'm saying
follow Made by Jim Bob on YouTube
that's
and listen
exactly my
to
argument against you.
his
Is that
daily shows,
you're basically just saying
this is literally what he does every day.
being had nothing
Is
to do with
his
God's.
like, yeah, he's got a lot of followers that agree with him,
Basically
that come to listen to him, make his argumentations for Christianity and against evolution and da-da-da.
God could have done that with.
But there's just as many people who show up. They don't like the show. They don't subscribe to him, right? They just show up to hate watch and argue with him in chat, and it's kind of entertaining.
Well, I'm saying that for my view,
It's funny.
it has nothing to do with
Just the back and forth
the
is
particular,
hilarious.
which it sounds like you're
And there's
stuck
some
in
simple
particular,
things that some of the people just
whereas I'm
refuse
saying, well, no, you
to get,
actually have to have a
refuse
universal
to admit.
back to premise
Just
one.
refuse. It's like
There's an absolute
it's so against their ideology and their worldview to admit some simple little things, right?
But you actually deny that. I would say premise one is one of the clearest, most widely held Christian dogmatic beliefs. And you are, this is why I said in the opening,
Oh,
the
release
only way you
this
can make
section, what I'm
evolution
supposed to be
happen
doing.
is to pervert
Nice.
evolution, first of all. But also pervert Christianity such that premise one could read as this is absolutely necessary for an antecedent for salvation, for Christ to incarnate in any animal. Any animal.
Well, not just any.
Because human
He
nature.
didn't let Jim Bob finish his argument. That's why, yeah, he kept saying because.
Define human nature.
Define human nature.
Good question.
I would say human nature is the image bearer status of God.
Which is a human.
All right, speak to the sulking
That's the soul. But the
skullcar.
thing is, your view,
All
right,
right.
is that human nature is
Jill
not
Browning.
particular to any sort of universal category of
The image of God is the image of God physical.
I'm saying, listen, you're saying that human nature has nothing to do with the human.
Yeah, I don't think
The creature or the human. You're saying it has nothing to do with the human creature. I'm wondering what other word you're going to try to use to try to defend this sort of like really it's like a dualistic Christianity view. Is that human is actually a meaningless term. It just happens to be human, but because you define Adam to be human because that's who he chose. But it's really not a particular created category of creature. It's not a created creature. It's an evolved creature. This is the key here. Is that from your view,
That's
the
got
creature
boom.
human is an evolved creature and doesn't have has no
Siege breaker.
other static universal other than image bearer status.
You.
That the entailment is that it could actually evolve into a completely different creature with even a smaller
I'm over my
brain size.
time limit here.
And from your Christian
Oh,
view,
no, I'm not.
a bunch of
I'm not at 2 hours. I
tiny
got another
brain
half hour to go.
monkeys would still be the image bearers of God, and yet they would be ripping each other's arms off.
No, keep going.
possible. I mean, whether they be ripping each other's arms off, they would still have free will. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
No, they wouldn't have any moral culpability if they were at the effect of their animal.
chimpanzees will work together. Chimpanzees to rear apes to herd monkeys, small monkeys. Oh, go get that leguminary. Give me something I need.
It has a biological
Like
category
an obsidian ring of the zodiac.
Now, under evolution, see, my view, which mine isn't under investigation now, but just if you wanted to look at it for a second, is that my view has both. That you have the created world with necessary universals and things that have names and objects that are part of categories. Why? Because that is reflective of God's ordered mind. There's a reason it's ordered. Under your view, you hold to evolution.
Yeah, it's just, like, I think, I'm not sure, I think
not
it's a Jordan Peterson thing where he ties. I don't know if it's Jordan Peterson, but I heard it from Jordan Peterson. Like, this could be somebody else's idea. That when God in Genesis has Adam name all the animals and name the stars and all that, It reflects the idea in like quantum mechanics, quantum physics, where we can't know where an object as small as a quark or a particle or an atom is, and the speed is traveling at the same time, right? But it doesn't actually exist unless we see it. So we can spot it, but then it behaves differently, right? It goes from a line form to a waveform. It's really weird shit. There's a whole video on an experiment on YouTube for it. But it ties in the things in our universe exist, but don't exist until we as a human being identify them and name them.
Status. That those things can actually change over time.
There can be the static universals in the mind of God.
Kind of goes in with the Schrodinger's cat, right? It's in a box, it's being irradiated to death, but is it really dead? Do we know it's dead unless we open the box and see it's dead? No, it's dead. It's dead. Like Schrodinger hated thought experiments like that, and that whole thought experiment was to point out how stupid thought experiments are. And it's now the most famous one, the most popular one, both these. I find that infinitely freaking funny. That's just the funniest shit.
Non-material aspects of reality. They're not identical.
Enter the Cave of Frost. Oh, kill all the... Hey, we getting a shot here at getting the Gibbering Gemstone. I highly doubt we'll get it. Super doubt we'll get the Gibbering Gemstone on our first foray into the Cavern of Frost. You have the Ice Caverns and you have the Cavern of Frost. Chiltara appears in the Cavern of Frost. Chiltara is the monster that drops the Gibbering Gemstone that you need to make the Staff of Herding, that you need to complete your altar of sacrifice. Ooh, you like all those pretty death breaths.
Okay. Yeah, but the thing is, a viewer, let's say there's a
Excuse me.
And we're not fully a viewer, an
take a look around, see if we can find
there, not fully in the Eshkapan,
a Gabi here. Because if a Gabi appears on the first floor, there'll be a Gabi on the second floor.
Isn't it possible from their view, and they exist at a different timeline than us, isn't it possible from their view where they don't even recognize what an animal is?
There's a gem Gabi right there.
Why wouldn't they recognize what an animal is?
Because the universal thingness, the set of what an animal is under evolution is always in flux, so it's no longer itself. So that's why I'm saying evolution, even from a philosophical standpoint, if we both agree that creation is reflective of God's mind and universe in particular are grounded and affirmed and stable in an unchanging mind, you're basically saying the world isn't actually reflective of God's mind because these universals can actually change over time.
Oh, we already found a Gabi, so
reflect God's mind more and more as more things develop.
Take our time through here.
So then evolution, you have to then say then you have to say evolution just basically stops, and you have no criteria for saying evolution stops.
Evolution will stop.
You got some tornadoes going
right
before I
now,
hit
I'm
that.
not saying right now it has to be in motion right now. And I'm saying that if that's the case, reality and truth
The
itself.
burrowing lecher.
Even if you took a
You lech, you pervert. Oh, he touched me.
Out there, the truth in one era of evolution, from your God-given evolution system, the truth in one scenario is not the truth a million years later.
Is the world a perfect or an imperfect reflection of God's mind?
I would say it's not identical.
Is it a perfect or imperfect reflection?
Imperfect.
Yeah, so if it's imperfect, that means it can get more perfect over time, right?
I don't know if
No, not necessarily.
or more
Right.
perfect. I wouldn't equate the
So
world
I would
with God's
argue
mind. I would
against
say
this. Right, this is how I'd argue. I don't know how. I would say that, theologically speaking, oh, there's Chitara right there, I believe. No, it's Zuzu, so no Chitara. I would argue, right, that God initially created Eden, right? And Eden was a perfect world, perfect realm, perfect universe. and then we fell, right? And we were moved from Eden. Now, okay, it says we were moved from Eden, but again, the words in the Bible are, that's how people are told stuff. There's a possibility that what happened is God just interjected chaos into the system, right? Because mathematically, you can look at the laws of distribution. You can look at how leaves grow, how grass grows, how every cell on our body is different. There's like a 0.001% of a percent fuck up in everything across the universe. And it's the same level of fuck up across the entirety of the universe, right? And it's chaos theory. So it could be argued that God didn't kick us out of Eden. He just injected chaos into the formula, right? Which, well, we already had free will and all that, but because he injected chaos, it gave us a wider range of what we could think we could do with our free will, right? And then all the animals went like, no, fuck these guys, we're eating them because chaos, right? So there was a perfect world and a perfect realm, and we fell from it, right? God injected chaos into the system, but that's my argument against what he's saying here. So, I'm sure somebody has a better argumentation, but
If it's reflective, it would be intelligible. If it's intelligible, it needs to appeal to unchanging universals, invariant things. Now, under evolution, is there anything under your evolutionary view that you're trying to bind to Christianity? Is there anything?
Now here's too with the chaos, the idea of chaos being everything. If the chaos can cause animals to suddenly hate humans when they loved humans, right? It can cause de-evolution. We could actually be de-evolving, not evolving, because of the chaos. Like there's chaos in the section in the theorem would give now after the fall the variety for evolution. They could just what they're seeing and thinking is evolution could just be a result of adaptation and de-evolution as a result of chaos in the theorem, right? Chaos in the formula of the universe. I don't know. It's just me. That's just me.
Well, there's the human soul is invariant. Physical things are always in motion. Matter always changes.
Okay.
Matter is imperfect, and the spiritual and God is perfect.
So trees aren't universally trees then, because they're matter.
Well,
that would violate the law of identity.
Of a tree that real trees are conforming to.
But trees could eventually not be trees, right? Under your
they could be ants. They could develop a mind and become ants.
Look like at that point.
I understand. So it's totally possible in review. Like I'll just say this before I guess we're getting close to the end here. Is that from your view, Christ comes and incarnates human nature, and human nature has nothing to do with the form. It's just a lucky derivative of Adam in its form. And
I do think there's a Platonic universal of a human form, but that's what we look like at the end of history. Basically.
Okay, and so in time, let's just push the end times, the return of Christ to judge the living and the dead, a million and a half years in the future. From your view, it's quite possible that humans could could be punched over.
I do need that for one of the bills. Executioner can go in the cube.
Wolverine or something like that.
I gotta say this.
Oh my goodness!
How people are these days? That's not a million years in the future. That's 2024.
Well,
I'm just saying,
I can see the hyperbole, and I agree with the hyperbole, but
awesome.
I'm talking about actual naturalism unfolding. Is it possible for a Wolverine
I can roll that crit higher. I think 50 is the highest 9 out of 10.
Let's just say that evolution
not
kept
bad.
going,
That's
and
I've
produce.
seen them. I've
right.
seen
The
some
vitality comes out. That's
I understand. I get the jokes, but I'm just
life per
asking.
hit.
Is it possible
It's a good
under
piece.
you,
That's a
when
good
God comes
piece.
to judge the living and the dead, that the living look no different than Wolverine?
It's
Avarice band.
I don't think that's going to happen. Like, I
But it
trust,
could under your theistic view.
based on my model of evolution alone,
Ugh.
without regard to God's covenant
Jesus,
promises.
why is it so
So,
crappy?
go ahead. Yeah, sure.
Okay, I think that is a good
Right,
place
but
to end off there, fellas.
each time you
So,
pick up
yeah,
gold
thanks for
increase,
having,
your
great
gold
back and forth.
and
Not
your
to,
gold and
not too much
health
belly aching tonight. It was really
pick
good.
up radius by
Appreciate
1
you
for 10
guys,
yards.
and
Right,
your dialogue.
so
I'm gonna let our audience
health globes
know
and your
really important.
Nephilim's globes that
You
drop.
can make it to the New
Right, so
York
this
area.
is actually a
having a
really
live-
good
If you think what happened in
farming,
North
right?
Carolina
It's really
and
good for farming.
California is bad, be prepared
Broken
for major
promises
disasters
was-
in these states.
Oh, yeah.
Something big is about to hit,
It's just,
and most people have no idea.
yeah, this is a
Paying
really
attention,
good
you see
farming
the
ring
warning
for your
signs.
follower.
event,
Wildfires.
DebateCon 5. Those tickets are still
So-
available in the description in the video right now. So, even just go ahead and do a little Google map and see how far away you are from the venue.
Another orb of
And I bet
death. I
you're
think
not
I
as far as
saved
what
one
you
of
think
those
you are.
already.
And, looking at the event, we've got all kinds
Jesus,
of great speakers coming
look
out.
what it is.
Of course, the two main events, of course. Well, I should say the two main
yeah.
events, but Andrew Wilson versus Fight the Flat Earth.
Promise
So that's
worry.
Craig.
I don't
Oh man, I just forgot your name.
think I need
Last
one in
name
the
there,
cube.
Craig. Maybe that's for the
I'll
better.
save it to go in the cube later.
So they're going
Because
to
I
be
do
doing
need
a
to put like
secular
60
humanism
things in the
debate,
cube
and then
at
Craig
some
is also going
point.
to be debating a second time against Alex Stein on Are the Government's Covering Up the Moon Landing, and then the other one that we have lined up for Andrew
What's
Wilson is the
March? I
separation
think I
of church
need.
and state, also against Alex Stein. So I guess you could say these three are gonna really be in the light here for our debate con. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Once
Yeah,
again, the
Act
tickets
5
are in the
bounty, and then
description.
that'll get that one.
And if you're hanging out in the live chat, you want to let us know where you'll be for the debate. All the debates will be streamed live and posted to our YouTube channel. But let us know in the live chat.
Yeah, we'll start here and
So,
we'll start
appreciate
kill,
you all hitting the like
kill
button.
Urziel.
Hopefully
We'll
see
just
you all
work.
there.
Well, we can here. We'll
So
start
let me just
here
get
and work.
into those super chats. We're going to
around
ask the
that way,
questions.
yeah.
Thanks to both of our speakers for being so patient while I remind our audience of the live event coming up. Of course, there's other great debates that are going to be happening at the live event, but I got to pitch the speakers that are putting in the work right now. That's what it's all about. Giab says for $2, does RZ affirm the fifth ecumenical council?
Ecumenical.
Ecumenical. Sorry, yeah, my bad. I did not pronounce it. But yeah, go ahead. Do you affirm this?
Yeah, now, I'm not sure if any of what the Fifth Council says specifically is relevant to this debate. The Reformed confessions affirm the first four councils, but generally the Reformed divines, actually not generally, without exception, the Reformed divines
Why am
affirm
I
the
suddenly
Christology of the
second
Sixth
guys
Council as
in?
well. So, yeah, there's that.
Let's ask that next one, Doomer Doxy. And I will remind the live chat, we are asking super chat questions right now. After that great pitch for the Debate Con 5. Once again, tickets are in the description in the Newark area. Let us know where you're going to be for this great event. Doomer Doxy says, I think Origin crawled his way out of hell. He would be so proud of RZ's opening. Origin?
And you just kill 150 guys now.
Even early church fathers consider
And
heretical.
I hate this area. Dude, there's not very good monster density.
Oh, we just did a little screen shift there.
No, I just tried to-
Poor monster density.
Oh, no
There's
worries. Here, I'll just
the
get us-
pools of death everywhere. This is just a crappy area.
We'll keep
One
on
of my
asking
least favorite
those super chats. Keep
areas.
them coming in. Hopefully one of these, we're going to get Jim Bob, sparked up here because a lot of them are for you. They're Richard, so let's carry on. Giab says, can you define pre-academic man, essentially?
So I'm not sure if there needs to be an essence of pre-Adamic man, because, like I said, I think the Platonic universals of the different species are how they are at the end of history, which I think, because Jesus did say he's coming soon, we don't know how soon, it's pretty soon, I think is more or less the same as the different species are now. So the various species that have existed in the past, there might be some Platonic universals, but I don't think we need to give a universal for every single one.
I have a question, a follow-up on that.
Let's go for it.
Does your Christian view hold that Christ is eternally uncreated?
His hypostasis is, yeah.
Okay, and do you hold that he also has a body?
He assumed a human body, yes.
Did he assume a human body before he incarnated?
No, he didn't.
He didn't.
No, that's standard Christology.
Okay. I'm just checking. I just want to know if he did. I wanted to know what you thought the body would be.
No. Does anyone think he assumed a human body before he incarnated?
No, I'm just asking I'm just wondering under the timeline, like if that was the case. I just wanted to see if that was the case. Okay. Because that
That
would
was
then
handy. That helped me
necessitate
get
there
that
was a
done.
universal form of a body. But then again, it could have been the
His
case
legacy.
that right now, if from your view, the human God breathed into a donkey, Christ would have been up to heaven as a donkey, right?
Let's answer that.
If, hypothetically, God chose donkeys to bear his image, then yeah, all the
What do you mean?
characters
Like,
in redemptive history would have been donkeys, yeah.
War Thunder
that would mean
says,
that God was a
"Why
donkey,
Bob
though,
Adams
would have the form of a donkey. Because it's, oh my gosh, that's just so silly.
I can't say anything tonight.
So
Marriage
silly.
is
It's
being
not even,
a problem when Abraham and Noah's kids and others didn't have this as an issue.
I don't think Abraham's kids committed direct incest. I mean, there was a case of those two daughters raping their father, but that's not seen as, like, a good thing. But I don't know for certain who Cain's wife was, whether it was, I think it's very unlikely that Cain's wife was his sister. I also think it's possible that even though Adam was the first human to receive a human soul, God could have independently given some of the other humans around Adam human souls as well. It's making Adam the first and the federal head of all of them, but some of the others could have had human souls as well, because, you know, I think God gave Eve a human soul independently of Adam, so God could have done that for Cain's wife.
Richard, do you hold that, because you hold a pre-Adamic position, and I was wondering, you called that the garden, right? You believe there was a garden that was created?
The Garden of Eden?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you hold that God walked in the garden?
Yeah, now I think that Christ, the Christophanies in the Old Testament are the incarnate Christ basically going back in time, because God's outside of time, we all know that. We know, like, it's heresy to say that God the Father, or God the Holy Spirit, or the Divine Essence has a body. So I think the best explanation from a Christian theological perspective is that all the theophanies in the Old Testament are really incarnate Christophanies.
And it would be fine if you had to, for the sake of it, change the word from walked to crawl. It wouldn't change anything from your view, right?
But that's not what happened, because if it's the same...
No. I'm asking a hypothetical. If it were the case, it was written that he crawled, right? Like let's say you just changed it to he crawled in the garden.
Why would you change the Bible?
I'm just gonna say, well, that's ironic from you. I'm asking you, it could have been the case that he crawled in the garden, because there's no body, right? There's no idea of what walking is without a human body, right?
Of course, there's an idea of what walking is.
But what is walking then? This is the olive foot question.
Adam
What does
and Eve
olive foot look like?
Adam and Eve walked on 2 feet, and when Jesus was on the earth, he walked on 2 feet. And since the Christophanies in the Old Testament are the same human nature that Christ assumed, we can assume that Christ walked on 2 feet in the garden.
So Christ walked on 2 feet. Is that pre-incarnate?
Well, I said that God's outside of time. It's a pretty common theological opinion that the Christophanies in the Old Testament are not just some optical illusion, that basically Christ went back in time. So it's the human body that Christ assumed is the human body that was generated in Mary's womb, in the mother of God. But Jesus basically went back in time. I
Bastard.
believe in a time-traveling God, so thank you. What's the next question?
Sure thing. Let's carry on.
God
Thank you
doesn't
so much for the
travel in
super chats.
time.
Keep them
God
coming in,
exists
guys.
in all
These guys,
times.
here
There's
you see
no
on the
traveling back and
screen,
forth
we
in it.
have a
He exists in
Redeemer
all of it,
made by
all
Jim
at
Bob.
once.
Both of them
Right?
are
It's
tagged in our
I don't
description.
know if
So,
that'd be a
you can
category
see
error
more
or
content from either of our speakers there if you enjoy what you're hearing. But hang out here, Modern Day Debate. We're still going to ask some more questions and put in those super chats. We really appreciate it, especially where we're coming up to our live event. I can't stress enough. It's going to be a great time in Newport, New Jersey. So if you can make it out, do so. It'd be great. So, War Thunderers. I'm going to do that a few times. I'm not going to lie. We're only 4 days away from the event, so I've got to...
go away, guy.
If not, then my phone will go off and James will say, hey, did you do that pitch for the debate con? And I'll say, yes, Neo-traditional news says, RZ, did Christ's incarnation unite divinity and germhood the way it did humanity? Are missing link people in Jesus' lineage?
No, because mainly I define the essence of humanity as the human soul. Now, there is a Platonic universal of the human body, but I don't think that means there can't be any sort of almost human creatures, because it's asymptotic. It's asymptotic, so...
No follow-up there? Okay, no worries. We can move on to this question.
Dead. You have died. And kick back
I do like
down.
talking to the live chat when you guys are answering questions, just to make sure everything's going good. But it seems like our mods have everything under control. Big thanks to MXXD, or sorry, Max MXXXA for doing a lot of mod work there. So
Probably
Justin
not
Hemley
another
says,
one. Come on, teleport.
if Jesus is the image of the Father, Colossians 1:15, shouldn't we evolve to that image? In other words, am I getting less lag?
So this would be a question for any Christian, even if they don't believe in evolution. If Jesus is the image of Jesus is the image of the Father, yeah, Jesus does represent the perfect humanity. I think that's another argument for not making the human soul, not making the human essence a physical thing. Because if the human essence is partly physical, and Jesus is the ideal human, then you have to be like the same race as Jesus. You have to look
So
like
you just
Jesus.
went down
But
this
I
way.
think if the human essence is not physical, and if it's
Grab that.
primarily spiritual, and the physical qualities are mainly accidental to what it means to be human, then it's about conformity to the soul of Jesus, which happens in the Holy Eucharist. So that's fine.
So wait, I just have a question with that, Redeem. You don't hold that humans themselves created in God's image are tripartite necessarily, like that you couldn't remove one aspect of them?
Are you asking me if I'm a trichotomist where I think soul and spirit are distinct?
Well, yeah, like mind, body, and soul, mind, body, and spirit, however you want to say it, because you're saying, like, well, the human nature is just its own floating essence that's reflective of God's breath and really could exist in a tree or a twig or a crab. And I'm saying, well, isn't from your view what it means to be human reflective of God's very ontology, not identical but reflective? And if that's the case, it seems like you have a problem here, because you kind of split it into, like, at minimum, a dualistic view or a parts view, where you have parts, there's a body, but you don't really need the body to be human. You need the soul, but you don't really need any particular body to have the soul, and the soul could reside in a rock or anything else. It's totally fine.
When Jesus was dead, was he still human?
When he was dead as humanity, when he separated from his human body?
Yeah, was he still human? Did Jesus become less human after he died?
Well, he took on the same a body. He took on a body, so in that sense, he's still
On
Holy human.
on Saturday, between Friday and Sunday, when Jesus was dead, his human soul was still there, so he was still human. He just didn't have it. He didn't have a body. He didn't have a physical
corporeal
body.
body.
but you're referencing what he was to even have the term human. So it's like that's my point, is that the thing you're referring to requires a universal, but under your view, there is no universal human body. So it's like the term is meaningless the same way the gender proponents say woman, and I go, what? Or or the Muslims say Allah's foot, and I go, is it a foot like a human foot? And they go, no, there's no universal. It's not like that. We don't know what the foot is.
If there's a universal human body, then why shouldn't everyone else try and make their bodies more like that universal human body?
What do you mean by that?
Well, the original question was, okay, if there is a universal human body, or if Jesus is the ideal human, then should I try to become less black to become the race that Jesus was? How would you answer that question?
Well, I mean, I don't hold like that kind of realist approach to humans. Those are just temporal aspects of the human body. The human body has aspects, but the race, let's say, of humanity is one thing. We're all image bearers of God, but that is a universal of humans. But humans need to mean something for that to be a universal of humans. And in this debate, your position basically revealed that the only thing that's unifying for humanity, the only thing, there's nothing in the world that also is additive to that unifies humanity. Human is just that spirit, just that breath of life.
What do you think?
Like I said, I think it's three. It's tripartite.
You say body, mind, and
Body, mind, and soul or spirit. Yeah, that the three we need a vehicle, and we have an appropriate vehicle. But from your view, it's just a sufficient vehicle. It's nothing. There's nothing unique or it's just like a skin sack, right? That the brain. You don't even need the brain from your view. There's no brain needed to develop under your view at all. Like no brain. That's why. That's why your view, it doesn't even need evolution. This is the killer of your view right here. Your view, your theological view, doesn't even need evolution. Why? Because God could have just planted the breath of life in a carrot.
I didn't say it needs evolution. I'm saying evolution is compatible with Christianity.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter because you don't even need evolution. You don't need evolution at all, right? Like whether it's obviously the debate is compatibility, but I'm saying that if there's no good argument for evolution being paired into Christianity, why do you even use it? Why do you even appeal to it if you don't even need it? Why, dude? Why do you even appeal to it? It could be totally false, and it wouldn't change your theology. Why? Because you can just
three of those.
Happen. And you can just embody a crab, right?
Somehow a scientist disproves evolution, and evolution is falsifiable. They could disprove it.
Yeah, throw it over here for now.
I understand that, but I'm saying if it's just compatible, I'm saying, but it's not essential. Why would you?
All right.
If it's not even a valid scientific theory, I'm just wondering why, other than social, social pressures, why even toy with it? If it's otherwise, if we had a different debate about what evolution is, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing narrative, like to tie it to Christianity.
I don't think it's
okay. And I'm at 2 hours into this, so I'm going to call it here. Take a little break. Put the little ones, check their butts, put them on the potty for a while.
No, I didn't say. I'm actually saying the opposite.
Thanks for joining me here on my little grind. Hello, first-time chatter that just showed up as I'm leaving. So I'm just checking out right now. If you have any questions about the game, head over to my YouTube channel and drop them in the chat. Or if you want to ask me something right now, go ahead before I get out of here. Miss Charlotte. Going all right. Just grinding away and taking care of the little ones here. Listening to stupid debates while I'm grinding. But like I said, I am checking out, taking a break. I've been streaming for 2 hours. How's the stream process going? It's all right. I mean, I do this mostly because I have grandkids and they want to watch people stream. And so instead of having them watch really weird shit all the time, like then they can just watch my stream. Yeah, I cuss and swear a little, but they're not going to get told really weird stuff. Thanks. I enjoy that. You should like if you like if you Diablo 3 stuff. I got a whole bunch of it over on my YouTube channel. There's a link right at the bottom of my main page over there. And like I said, if you have any questions, you can ask them in the comments over there, and I will get to them either on the next stream or answer them in the comments. Can't hear me? Did my... There we go. How's that? Maybe my... There we go. How's that? Every once in a while, it just drops me from the chat for some reason. But like I said, take the link over to my YouTube page and ask any questions about the game in the comments there. I'm about to hop off. I have to work on potty training the little ones. It's time to check their butts and put them on the potties. Start making their lunch. But I will be back later probably. So I hope everyone has a good day. Peace out.